Alright, Schlockmeister fans, another re-review from our previous channel. The Psychic Fulci. Let's check it out. Our film starts with a woman jumping off a cliff, committing suicide. That's her daughter who's getting a vision of it. She's seeing it in her head. This is Virginia. She's seeing her husband off. He's on some sort of business trip. Francesco is his name. Anyway, as Virginia's driving back home, she gets this vision. That looks like somebody's walled in. There's a room. And a dead body.
Visions, hallucinations are a consequence of your emotional state, agitation and anxiety. For example, you were agitated when your husband left.
18 years ago, my mother committed suicide.
Calm down. The calmer you are, the fewer visions you have.
Anyway, Virginia plans to renovate this house while her husband's away.
Is there something else you want me to do?
No, thanks, God. But could you come back in a half hour or so and help?
She gets another vision while she's in that house. There was a mirror. And she had a vision of something inside the wall, so of course she's going to take a pickaxe to the wall to find out what, if anything, is behind it. And those are fingers. We have a skeleton back there.
Here it takes so little. You only have to be the owner of the house.
That's crazy. Anyway, did they tell you how old she was?
It's her husband's house, so he gets arrested.
Senora, the same age, the same height. There is a bone classification which corresponds.
But there's no proof against my husband.
What do you mean you're certain, absolutely certain? I've had enough of your hallucinations and visions. Forget them. For the love of God, I'm beginning to think you're out of your mind. I'm sorry, Virginia.
Talk to you about his equestrian triumphs.
This is Emilio.
Oh no, you've done it again. But why?
She's seen him before.
You know, grow.
Maybe she's destined.
She's not seeing visions of the past, it's
As
the
you saw
future.
your vision. You've seen things that have yet to happen, Virginia.
And yet,
Excuse me, aren't we near Montesebello?
yeah, you mean that place in the papers near the house they found that skeleton?
She heads inside and sees fresh blood. She tries her best not to disturb the house. And finds a letter. And this guy shows up. He goes after Virginia, but he doesn't really want her. He just wants that letter. He takes quite a fall, but he's actually not dead, in spite of the blood by his head. As she's about to find out. She gets a hold of her husband, who shows up, and he has a limp, just like was in some of her visions. Emilio's still going.
I didn't kill her. When I reached the villa, she was already dead.
Apparently Emilio, Francesco, and another guy were involved in stealing a painting.
Francesco outside the museum. They killed the guard and stole the painting.
Virginia's now been clubbed by her husband. She sees that hole in the wall and she realizes her fate. Nobody can find her. But she has like this little wristwatch that plays the music. They approach it, and that's our film. All right, let's talk about Lucia Fulci's The Psychic, otherwise known as, crap, what was the on-screen title? 7 Minutes of Music or some crap, I don't know. But anyway, these Italian giallo horror movies, something about these things I just don't get. You know, they're just very confusing to me. We have a movie here. The movie starts out with this young girl, Virginia. She gets this vision of her mother committing suicide. And that's exactly what's happening. Her mother is jumping off a cliff. As she falls over the cliff, we see her head hit the side of the cliff a couple times and it cuts it up and stuff, which is a very similar scene to Don't Torture a Duckling, which I believe that was also Fulci. I guess he likes that kind of stuff. But anyway, fast forward 18 years, she's now an adult. She continues to get like these psychic visions. And she keeps getting this vision of an old lady who is dead. She's trapped in a wall. There's a mirror. Doesn't know what to make of it. Her psychiatrist, talks to her about her mom dying, this and that. So she knows she's had some trauma in her life. And he basically says, you just got to calm down. The more calm you are, the less visions you will have. I don't know. Anyway, she goes to this house. Her husband has gone away on a business trip somewhere. She goes to this house that she plans to like renovate or something like that. And then she realizes this is the house in some of her visions. And she sees this little wall and she thinks something's behind that wall because that's the vision she's been getting. So she takes a pickaxe to the wall and they find a skeleton back there, a skeleton of a woman. So she thinks that must be the old woman I've been having these images of or these visions of. So they immediately arrest her husband when he comes home from his business trip because the house was owned by him. Excuse me. And he's a natural suspect. But of course, he had nothing to do with this, apparently. But whatever the case is, they eventually let him out for lack of evidence or something. Meanwhile, she keeps getting more visions, and then her friend of hers figures out that these aren't visions of the past. These are visions of the future. You're seeing stuff that hasn't happened yet. Turns out this skeleton is of a 25-year-old woman, though it's not an old woman. And then, she's poking around a bit, and then this guy, Emilio, shows up. There's this letter that she grabs, and he wants the letter, and he chases her up on this scaffolding, and he falls off, hurts himself, doesn't die, ends up in the hospital. And then he tells some weird story about how him, Virginia's husband, Francesco, and some other guy, like, stole a painting years earlier. And I think it was Francesco, her husband, who actually did kill this woman. I guess it was a former girlfriend of his from 1972 or something like that. And he walled her up in there. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I find these things so hard to follow. Sometimes I can't figure it all out. But to some degree, I do. Ultimately, she confronts her husband at this house near the end of this movie. He clubs her with this fireplace poker, knocks her out, but not dead. And then he puts her in the wall and seals her up. And the authorities come. They don't find anything. But then as they're about to leave, they hear some music playing. It turns out she has this wristwatch on that her husband's sister had actually given to her. And then it ends with them going towards the wall. And that's how our movie ends. So presumably they got her out. There you go. I don't know. Anyway, that's Lucia Fulci's The Psychic. This movie I originally got, I believe, from a grocery store called Red Owl, which was in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. It's a pick and save now, I think. And they don't have movies anymore. But they did back in 1986 or 7 or so whenever I got this movie. I never actually watched it when I got it at that time, but I've watched it a couple times since then. And I don't quite follow these movies. They don't do a whole lot for me, to be honest with you. I have no desire to ever watch this again, and I probably won't. Who knows? Maybe I probably will. I don't know. I have no idea. But no nudity. There's some gore in this movie. Again, these movies I know are popular. I know Fulci's popular. I just don't get it. I don't get it. They're just not for me. Maybe you like them. I don't like them all that great, but whatever. leave some comments and tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how you like them so much, and we'll talk about it. So anyway, Severin puts this out, this DVD, which I've had a very, very long time. I imagine there's a Blu-ray of it as well, but I'll put a link to something down below if you want to buy it. So click that link, buy it, watch it, and tell me what you think about The Psychic. Bye.